While talent and hard work are the usual paths to success, for some, it was all about deception. In today's video, we'll dive into the unbelievable stories of 6 players who faked their way into professional football, convincing top clubs they had the skills, when in reality, they didn't. Let's uncover how these imposters pulled it off. Starting with maybe the most famous incident on this list. Football has seen its fair share of crazy stories, but Ali Diaz is one of the most outrageous. In 1996, the Senegalese forward pulled off one of the most audacious hoaxes in football history when he convinced Southampton FC to sign him, despite having no credentials to back it up. The forward scheme was simple but effective. He convinced Southampton manager Graham Souness that he was the cousin of George Weah, the 1995 World Player of the Year and Ballon d'Or winner, saying that he had played for PSG and the Senegal national team. But do you know the twist? Someone pretending to be Weah called Souness to vouch for Diaz's abilities. It was all lies, but with limited information back then, Souness fell for it, and Diaz was handed a 1-month contract. Despite having never played for top clubs, the Senegalese was thrown into a match against Leeds United on November 23, 1996, as a substitute for Matt Le Tissier. What happened next was 53 minutes of pure chaos. Diaz's performance was so poor that Le Tissier later compared it to watching Bambi on ice, and Souness took him off in the 85th minute, ending his brief career. He even managed a shot on target. Had it gone in, the story might have taken an entirely different turn. However, it didn't take long for the truth to come out. After just 14 days, it was revealed that Diaz had never played for PSG or represented Senegal. His previous attempts to trick clubs like Gillingham and Bournemouth had failed. He had been playing in lower leagues in France and Germany. Despite the embarrassing fall from grace, Diaz became a legend for all the wrong reasons. His story remains one of football's most bizarre hoaxes, often mentioned when discussing the sport's most unbelievable moments. In 2016, US American sports magazine Bleacher Report tracked the Senegalese down in London, where he claimed the Southampton incident was hurtful. He insisted he trained with the team for a month and a half and impressed. The reports suggest he spent less than a week at the club before his infamous debut. The truth is, Ali Diaz played only 53 minutes of professional football and managed to deceive an entire club. Even though his career was short-lived, his name will forever be tied to one of football's most audacious frauds. But when it comes to creativity, the next player's deception takes things to a whole new level. Former French footballer Grégoire Akcelrod didn't have the talent to be a professional footballer, but that didn't stop him from trying. Born in 1982 in Saint-Germain-en-Laye, France, he grew up in a privileged family, obsessed with football and idolizing legends like George Weah and Zinedine Zidane. But even as a kid, it was clear he wasn't cut out for the game. His own father bluntly told him, "Greg, you are so bad. I don't want you to play football again." But the Frenchman continued pursuing his dream. In 2003, Akcelrod decided if he couldn't earn his way into football, he'd fake it. He created a website claiming he was a reserve player for PSG, complete with deceptive images and fake press clippings. In reality, he had only played for PSG's 5th team, far from anything professional, but the deception was convincing enough. Thanks to his digital resume, he landed trials at clubs like Norwich City, FC Bournemouth, and Sydney FC. Before getting exposed, he went on 23 trials across 19 countries, traveling the world in pursuit of a football career he hadn't earned. In 2007, the Frenchman had a trial at Swindon Town, where he even managed to score 2 goals in a friendly. Despite this, he was still rejected by the club. His ambition took him everywhere, until it finally caught up with him. 2 years later, he secured a trial with CSKA Sofia, a top Bulgarian club that had just qualified for the UEFA Europa League. The club was so convinced by his fabricated resume and skills that they were prepared to offer him a €15,000 a month contract. However, Akcelrod's deception was exposed when a CSKA fan, curious about his claimed history of playing for PSG, asked on a PSG fan forum how Akcelrod had played for their first team. No one in the fan community recognized him. The fan then alerted Bulgarian journalists, revealing the truth, and the deal ended abruptly. That could have been the end, but the midfielder kept pushing. While he never made it to the top, he did manage to play for Athletic America in Andorra and the Mississauga Eagles in Canada, both semi-professional teams. In 2012, during a trial in China, his football journey came to a close, ironically, not because of football, but after eating some dodgy food that sidelined him for good. Post-football, Akcelrod reinvented himself. He founded One Soccer Agency in Andorra, an agency focusing on representing young football players, including a young Aurelien Tchouameni, long before he became a star. He also wrote a book called Pro at Any Cost, telling the story of how far he went to chase his dream. Grégoire Akcelrod's journey is one of the most bizarre stories in football, a wild blend of ambition, audacity, and perhaps a need to prove something to his dad. Just when you think it can't get any bolder, the next story takes things to a whole new level. Imagine not only faking your stints at several football clubs, but also benefiting from it for years. Meet Carlos Henrique Raposo, better known as Carlos Crazier, one of football's most legendary con men. From the 1980s to the 90s, he managed to sign contracts with 10 different clubs, including major teams like Botafogo, Flamengo, Independiente, and Vasco da Gama, all without ever playing a single competitive match. Crazier's plan was simple but effective. He used his charm, manipulation, and strategic connections to get into clubs, befriending football icons like Renato Gaucho, Ricardo Rocha, and Carlos Alberto Torres, who vouched for him and helped him land contracts at top clubs. Once signed, the Brazilian would fake injuries, typically muscle strains or fitness issues, keeping him off the pitch while still collecting paychecks. The medical technology at the time couldn't detect his fake injuries, allowing him to remain sidelined for weeks without raising suspicion. To maintain the illusion of being a sought-after player, Crazier carried a fake mobile phone and pretended to receive calls from agents and international clubs. He also had a habit of befriending journalists, who wrote entirely fabricated stories about his skills and career, further solidifying his false profile. One of his infamous stunts occurred at Gosselec Ajaccio in France. At his first training session, he allegedly kicked all the balls into the crowd, forcing the team to train without them. However, the story was later debunked, as former players confirmed he never played for the club. The striker's most famous stunt, however, took place later at Bangu, a Brazilian club owned by notorious gangster Castor do Andrade. Under pressure to play, Crazier pretended to be hungover. When asked to warm up for a match, he staged a fight with fans to get himself sent off before even stepping onto the pitch. Astonishingly, do Andrade rewarded him with a pay rise and extended his contract after the incident. Crazier claimed he fought the fans to protect his boss from bad words and criticism. His career, based entirely on deception, was eventually exposed in the 2010s, leading to the 2018 documentary and book called Crazier, the greatest footballer never to play football. While Crazier never played a single competitive match, his ability to manipulate the system and live out his dream as a professional footballer without ever stepping on the pitch remains one of the most outrageous feats in football history. He may not have been a footballer, but he will always be remembered as the greatest conman in football, a legend who faked an entire career. While the previous stories had a humorous touch, the next one takes on a more bittersweet tone. Bernio Verhagen's story is a cautionary tale of deception in pursuit of fame and fortune. Born on February 13, 1994, in Paramaribo and later moving to Tilburg, Netherlands, the Dutch citizen's football journey was marked by fraud, lack of talent, and a wave of failed attempts to convince clubs across the world that he was a skilled player. Growing up in the Netherlands, Verhagen joined the Willem II Youth Academy from 2013 to 2015, but despite exposure to top-tier coaching, he was unable to break into the first team. His time there didn't lead to a professional career, and it became clear he lacked the talent to make it at the highest levels. After leaving Willem II, Verhagen played for SC Den Dungen, a 9th-tier Dutch football team, but his time there didn't give him the breakthrough he needed. In 2019, the Surinamese first major opportunity, which was also his first major deception, came when he signed with Dynamo Otto, a professional football club in the breakaway region of Transnistria, Moldova. The club later admitted that they had only seen an old football video of him before offering him a contract. Just months later, without a single appearance for the team, his journey continued as he moved to Cape Town City FC in South Africa, after the club had received recommendations about Verhagen from someone impersonating Mo Sinu, a respected Dutch football agent from the Stellar Group. And just like before, he did not even play one match for the African Giants. From there, he moved to Chile's professional football club Audax Italiano, where he secured a contract based on promises of future profits, despite again never playing a single match for the club. Verhagen's deception didn't end with these three clubs. In November 2019, he signed with Viborg FF, a club in Denmark's second division at that time. However, his lack of footballing ability quickly became obvious during his first training session, leading to his immediate release and a police report for fraud. Despite his failure in football, his criminal activities soon escalated. In 2020, he was convicted in Denmark for robbery and battery, leading to a prison sentence and deportation. By 2021, Verhagen had moved to Colombia, where he was arrested for defrauding businesses and individuals by pretending to be a wealthy European footballer. He was later extradited back to the Netherlands, where, in December 2023, he was sentenced to 9 years in prison for his involvement in violent robberies, including home invasions and holding victims hostage. His story serves as a stark reminder of how important background checks are in the world of professional football. Though he shared Surinamese roots with many successful Dutch athletes, his background wasn't what shaped his journey, which ultimately became a story of deception and downfall. Moving on to a story that sadly ended with a tragic incident. Italy, a land of footballing legends, also gave rise to Alessandro Zarrelli, born September 5, 1984, whose name became synonymous with deception rather than skill. In the mid-2000s, the Italian pulled off one of the most audacious hoaxes in football history, convincing multiple clubs that he was a seasoned professional with experience at top teams like Glasgow Rangers, Leeds United and Sheffield Wednesday. But do you know the problem? None of it was true. Zarrelli's journey began in January 2005 when he approached Lisburn Distillery, a Northern Ireland club, claiming he was part of a youth exchange program backed by the Italian Football Federation. He came armed with fake documents, fabricated references, and an elaborate story about his illustrious football career. He even claimed his brother had played for Torino, but it was all smoke and mirrors. He then tried to repeat his performance in Wales, first at Bangor City and then at Connah's Quay. Zarrelli's luck didn't last, and after a brief stint at those clubs, he was sent packing for a breach of club discipline. Zarrelli's cover was blown when Bangor manager Peter Davenport did the smart thing. He picked up the phone and called a friend at Sheffield Wednesday, who had never heard of the supposed Italian superstar. Journalists from Sky, digging deeper into Zarrelli's past, contacted both Rangers and Sheffield Wednesday. Unsurprisingly, neither club had ever heard of Zarrelli. To expose him further, one of the journalists posed as a football agent and arranged a meeting with the Italian, which he eagerly accepted. During this meeting, the Italian once again told his fabricated backstory, until the journalist revealed he had been caught. Even after his deceit was exposed, Zarrelli kept playing with his real identity, bouncing around English and Scottish semi-professional clubs. In 2012, he got another shot at Dis Town, where the chairman was willing to judge him solely on his footballing ability, not his history of lies. Zarrelli's story didn't end in football glory though. In 2018, tragedy struck when he was involved in a car accident in Cambridgeshire. His blue Mini Cooper collided with a van, and although he initially survived, he later passed away from his injuries at the hospital. Zarrelli's life was one of deception, but his story remains a wild reminder of how far someone will go to chase their dreams, even if those dreams are built on a foundation of lies. Ending the video with a more recent deception. Born in Paris on September 9, 1992, Barkley Miguel Panzo's journey through the world of football was anything but typical. He played for a mix of clubs across Europe, including teams in England, France, Sweden, and Malta. But here's the kicker. His footballing tale wasn't always about talent. It was about pulling off one of the most audacious deceptions in the game. Panzo, who had played for QPR's academy side as a youngster from 2009 to 2010, later found himself bouncing between non-league teams in England. The Angolan moved on to lower-tier clubs in France, but things really took a turn when he set his sights on Lithuania in February 2018. FK Panevėžys, a club in the second Lithuanian division at that time, was fooled by a fabricated Wikipedia page that claimed Panzo had scored 45 goals in 36 appearances for QPR in the English Championship. Imagine that, a footballer from the fifth tier of English football suddenly being marketed as a goal-scoring machine in the Championship. Along with the fabricated goal tally, the Wikipedia page also falsely stated that Panzo had played 3 games and scored 1 goal during the Africa Cup of Nations qualification for Angola, further inflating his footballing credentials. It didn't take long for the club to realize the whole thing was a sham, but in a bizarre twist, they still gave him a shot. However, the forward made just 1 appearance for the club before they had seen enough. He was let go soon after, and the club issued an apology to their fans for the mix-up, which became just another bizarre chapter in this wild story. But Panzo didn't stop there. The tall striker continued his career with the Vittoriosa Stars, an amateur club in Malta, before hanging up his boots in 2021. Even after all the drama, The Angolan story still serves as a reminder of the power of misinformation in the digital age, and how a bit of crafty editing can get you further than you'd think, at least for a little while. Whether he edited his own Wikipedia page or not is still up for debate, but one thing's for sure, his professional career was as bizarre as it was brief. After his playing days, Panzo transitioned into a new role, working as a content creator for the Union of Professional Footballers since 2019, leveraging his experiences in the football world to help support and guide current and former players. And hey, if you're wondering, the club that was tricked into signing him actually went on to win the Lithuanian First League in 2023. So at least something good came out of this whole mess. And that's where the deception of this video comes to an end. As we've learned today, the road to success can be filled with fraud, but ultimately, the truth always finds a way to surface. Comment down below which story you found the most creative or bizarre, and also don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to support the channel. Out of Play says goodbye.